Hi, I'm Karen and welcome to my Week 17 NFL picks. I can't believe we're going into the last regular week of the NFL, but a lot has gone on this season. It's been a very interesting, crazy season, so let's get right in and talk about the games this week. First game we're going to talk about is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Atlanta Falcons. Now, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they had a crazy season this year. Now, they lost 16-48 to the Panthers. Freeman had 274 passing yards with 1 interception, 7 penalties for 64 yards. They had 3 fumbles, and Freeman was sacked 3 times for 16 yards lost. Now, the Atlanta Falcons, they were part of that historic game against the Saints, but they lost 16-45 to the Saints. Ryan had 373 passing yards. They had 7 penalties for 57 yards, 1 fumble. They made 2 interceptions for 14 yards, and they had no sacks. Now, I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they are just struggling too much this season. They started off strong, but then they just got too weak. I think the Falcons are going to win. Now, the Baltimore Ravens and the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, this is going to be a good game. Now, the Baltimore Ravens, they won 2014 over the Broncos. Flacco had 132 passing yards and 1 interception. They had 5 penalties for 51 yards, sacked 1 time for 10 yards lost, made 1 interception for 4 yards, and they completed their first unbeaten season at home. They were 8-0 at home, and they will win the AFC North if they win against the Bengals. And they will have first round bye and home field advantage. So this is a big game for the Ravens to win, so they're going to be giving it their all. Now, the Cincinnati Bengals, they won 23-16 over the Cardinals. Dalton had 154 passing yards. They had 6 penalties for 47 yards, 2 fumbles, sacked 2 times for 18 yards lost, and they made 3 interceptions for 17 yards. Then Dalton joined Peyton Manning at 26, Charlie Connerly at 22, and Dan Marino at 20 for rookies to throw at least 20 touchdowns in a season. So Andy Dalton's having a really good rookie season. And they will take the AFC lead in playoffs with a win here. So this is going to be a very important game for both these teams. I know the Bengals have had a lot of bad luck between the Ravens and the Steelers before. And I just think, it's still really, the Bengals, I don't think they have enough experience. I would like to see the Bengals win, but I think the Ravens are going to do it. They've got too much fire and too much drive and too much experience, and I think the Ravens are going to do it. Pittsburgh Steelers and the Cleveland Browns. Now, the Pittsburgh Steelers, they won 27-0 over the Rams. Batch had 208 passing yards and 1 interception because Ben Roethlisberger was out. They had 7 penalties for 50 yards, and that was just a shutout. Cleveland Browns lost 14-20 to the Ravens. Wallace had 147 passing yards and 1 interception because Colt McCoy is still out. They had 6 penalties for 95 yards, 2 sacks with 8 yards lost, made 1 interception for no yards and no sacks. And I just think the Steelers are too strong of a team. They're going to win that one. Detroit Lions and the Green Bay Packers. Now, this is going to be a very interesting game. I kind of had my pick, and I think I'm going to change my pick, and I will tell you my reasons why. Now, the Detroit Lions won 38-10 over the Chargers. Stafford had 373 passing yards. They had 3 penalties for 8 yards, sacked 3 times for 20 yards lost, made 2 interceptions for 47 yards, and the Lions clinched their playoff spot with their win. Now, the Green Bay Packers won 35-21 over the Bears. Aaron Rodgers had 283 passing yards and 5 touchdowns. No penalties, no fumbles, made 2 interceptions for 23 yards, sacked 1 time for 1 yard lost. Now, Green Bay Packers are in the playoffs. They have home field advantage. They are all set. So, I originally was going to pick the Packers, but think about it. And I listened to Tony Dungy speak also. They're all set. They have 1 loss, so they're not going for a perfect season. They have nothing to gain by winning this game. So what they're probably going to have Aaron Rodgers only play in the first quarter, and then they're probably going to rest all their starters for the playoffs. So resting their starters, I think the Lions are going to win, because the Green Bay Packers, they're not going to worry about winning. They're going to worry about the big games ahead and resting their starters. So I think the Lions are actually going to win this one. San Francisco 49ers and the St. Louis Rams. Oh, and just a side note, the Inside the NFL guys also picked the Lions. Now, San Francisco 49ers won 19-17 over the Seahawks. Smith had 179 passing yards. They had 6 penalties for 77 yards, sacked 2 times for 8 yards lost, and Akers made 4 field goals to give him 42 this season and the most in league history. So Akers made some record-breaking achievements there. 49ers under Harbaugh are just doing amazing this season. Now, St. Louis Rams lost 0-27 to the Steelers. Clemens had 91 passing yards. They had 4 penalties for 21 yards, sacked 3 times for 23 yards lost, and made 1 interception for 7 yards. I just think there's no going against the 49ers. 49ers are going to win this game. They're just too hot. New York Jets and the Miami Dolphins. The New York Jets. They lost 14-29 to the Giants. Can't get my shirt in there. Sanchez had 258 passing yards and 2 interceptions, 10 penalties for 95 yards, 1 fumble, sacked 5 times for 32 yards lost, and made 1 interception for 20 yards. The Jets just couldn't get it together. They couldn't put their money where their mouth is, and they lost. Miami Dolphins lost 24-27 to the Patriots. They were ahead for most of that game. Moore had 294 passing yards, 1 interception. They had 6 penalties for 39 yards, fumbled 4 times where they only lost 1 of them, had 5 sacks where they lost 28 yards, and they had a 17-0 lead at halftime. That was kind of a close game. I was thinking they might have had an upset there for a while. But, I think the Miami Dolphins, I think they're going to beat the Jets. The Jets are just having way too much trouble. And they're falling apart. I just was shocked when I saw it last week. Chicago Bears and the Minnesota Vikings. Now the Chicago Bears lost 21-35 to the Packers. McCown had 242 passing yards, 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions. They had 6 penalties for 28 yards and no sacks. The Bears, just after Jay Cutler left, the Bears just lost it. They're falling apart. They need to regroup and just get ready for next season. That's what they need to do. They just need to say, okay, finish the season, just regroup. Now the Minnesota Vikings, they won 33-26 over the Redskins. That was a shocking victory for them. Webb had 84 passing yards. Ponder had 68 passing yards. They had 4 penalties for 40 yards, sacked 2 times for 4 yards lost, made 1 interception for 31 yards. Now Adrian Peterson left with a knee injury, and he needs surgery on his ACL. And Ponder left with a concussion. So they had some injuries there, but I think this week, I bet you the Vikings are going to continue on their streak, and I'm going to pick the Vikings. The Bears are just having too much problems. Buffalo Bills and the New England Patriots. Now the Buffalo Bills won 40-14 over the Broncos. Fitzpatrick had 196 passing yards. They had 8 penalties for 69 yards, sacked 1 time for 5 yards lost, made 4 interceptions for 69 yards. And Jarius Byrd and Spencer Johnson returned interceptions on consecutive plays in the fourth quarter for touchdowns. So the Broncos just had a really bad day, and the Buffalo Bills took advantage of it and had a high-scoring game, a great win. And they're going against the New England Patriots, who won 27-24 over the Dolphins. Brady had 304 passing yards, 5 penalties for 50 yards, sacked 4 times for 23 yards lost. They made 1 interception for no gain. Brady ran for 2 touchdowns and threw for 1, and they clinched playoffs despite down 17-0 at the half. So the Patriots are going to the playoffs again this year, and I think the Patriots are going to win this game. Unless, of course, these teams decide to rest starters, then that's all new ball game. Carolina Panthers and the New Orleans Saints. Now the Carolina Panthers won 48-16 over the Buccaneers. Cam Newton had 171 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. They had 8 penalties for 77 yards, sacked 1 time for 8 yards lost, and made 1 interception for 20 yards. Cam Newton, he's coming back again. He started off the season strong. They kind of had a lull there for a while, but now he's playing strong again. But the New Orleans Saints, they won 45-16 over the Falcons. Drew Brees had 307 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 4 penalties for 46 yards, sacked 1 time for 8 yards lost, but Drew Brees hit 5,087 passing yards for the single season record. So he broke Dan Marino's record. That was amazing. If anybody was watching that, whoever was watching that game, it was just a momentous occasion when he threw that touchdown pass and, broke that record, and the guys just rushed him, and the music played, and the fans cheered, and it just was so emotional for him and for everybody. And then even his speech at the end, where he gave credit to everybody, the defense, the offense, the equipment guys, just everybody. I mean, this couldn't have happened to a nicer man. He is one of the quarterbacks who definitely deserve to have, good honors on him, because he is just such a decent human being. It's just such a nice, all-around, genuine guy that, he's just one of the few quarterbacks I really think deserve this. And you know what? Now I've said all that, I think the Saints are going to win that game. And the game of the week, the pre-playoff game, Dallas Cowboys and the New York Giants. Let's see, the Dallas Cowboys lost 20-7 to the Eagles. Tony Romo had no passing yards because he hurt his hand, and that swelled up pretty bad. I saw that. Looked kind of painful to me. McGee had 182 passing yards. They had 6 penalties for 47 yards, sacked 3 times for 25 yards lost, and they said Tony Romo will play, and the game will decide the NFC East title. Now the New York Giants won 29-14 over the Jets. Eli Manning had 225 passing yards, 1 interception. They had 5 penalties for 45 yards. Eli was sacked 2 times for 8 yards lost. They made 2 interceptions for 47 yards. And they had that amazing pass from Eli to Victor Cruz, who went 99 yards. It was 99-yard pass for a touchdown. Set up the momentum, got that team going and that was just an amazing game. And I tell you, they're going to go out there and play in that cold. And that will affect Tony Romo's hand, because anybody had any injuries, and you get that swelling out there, and any type of injury you have, and you get out there, get cold, it's going to start to ache, and it's going to be painful. And the Giants are playing in their home field advantage. They are on fire. They have the hunger. They have the drive. They're just coming off the high of the Jets, because I heard that Rex Ryan had put a bloody picture of Eli on all their playbooks. They put black sheets over the Super Bowl trophies, and the Giants are coming off the high of beating the Jets there, and giving it to them for doing all that stuff. they're not down from that high yet. They're coming into this Dallas Cowboy game all on fire. Giants are going to win this game, hands down. They're going to the playoffs. Washington Redskins and the Philadelphia Eagles. Now the Washington Redskins lost 26-33 to the Vikings. Grossman had 284 passing yards and 1 interception. They had 8 penalties for 64 yards, 1 fumble, sacked 3 times for 28 yards lost. So they were doing good, doing bad, doing good. Now I had a bad game there. Philadelphia Eagles, they're out of the playoffs, but they won 20-7 over the Cowboys. Michael Vick had 293 passing yards. They had 5 penalties for 47 yards, 1 fumble, sacked 2 times for 12 yards lost. And as I said, the Giants win eliminated the Eagles from the playoffs. But I think with this game, the Eagles are going to win this matchup. Now, one of the most talked about games this week, the Indianapolis Colts and the Jacksonville Jaguars, which I've got this nice holiday Indianapolis Colts necklace from my daughter. The Indianapolis Colts won 19-16 over the Texans, a big surprise game. Nobody expected that. I did, but not many people. Only 2% of people voted for the Colts. Orlovsky had 244 passing yards. They had 4 penalties for 35 yards, fumbled 2 times, where they lost 1 of them. They had 3 sacks with 19 yards lost, and they had a touchdown to win with 19 seconds left on the clock. That was some amazing finale to that game. It was stressful. Now, Jacksonville Jaguars lost 17-23 to the Titans. Gabbert had 198 passing yards, 1 interception. They had 6 penalties for 28 yards, sacked 1 time for 11 yards lost, made 2 interceptions for 27 yards. Now, everyone is saying that the Colts should just lose this game to get the first pick in the draft. But now you try to tell professional football players to blow a game. It is not going to happen. They have professional integrity. They have the drive. They're programmed to win. And that is, football players do not throw games. Now, people are saying that Colts should just play their newbie players, their players that don't get, played that often. They should keep their starters out of the game to purposely lose the game and get the first pick in the draft. I don't think that's something that the Colts should do to their fans, because I don't think that the Colts fans are going to really like that. I think it's not so much the fact that, I don't think Andrew Luck might be the be-all and say-all of all their answers to their prayers. I mean, look at Aaron Rodgers. He didn't go first in the draft. So, and look where he is now. And he sat on the bench for a few years behind Brett Favre, and look what he's doing now. So, you don't have to be a first-round draft choice. I mean, there have been first-round draft choices, and they bombed when they got into the NFL. So, there's nothing to say that that's going to be the answer to everything. Peyton has a few years left, so they have to think of the future, but it doesn't always have to be the first-round draft. So you know what? I think the Colts are going to out there because they've been saying that they can't win without Peyton. They've won 2 games. These guys don't want to know that. Now, I love Peyton dearly, and you know what? I know the guys need Peyton, but they're going to show that they don't need Peyton to win these football games, and they're going to win this 3rd and last game of their season. Now, the Tennessee Titans and the Houston Texans. Tennessee Titans won 23-17 over the Jaguars. Hasselbeck had 350 passing yards, 2 interceptions, no penalties, 1 fumble, sacked 1 yard for 8 yards lost, and made 1 interception for no gain. Houston Texans lost 16-19 to the Colts. I love to say that. Yates had 132 passing yards. They had 11 penalties for 84 yards, fumbled 2 times, they lost 1 of them, and sacked 4 times for 20 yards lost. But in this matchup, I think Houston's going to come back and show that they can win a football game. They've been having some trouble at the end of the season, but they're going to win that one. Seattle Seahawks and the Arizona Cardinals. Seattle Seahawks lost 17-19 to the 49ers. Jackson had 163 passing yards. They had 5 penalties for 51 yards, 1 fumble, sacked 3 times for 22 yards lost. And the Arizona Cardinals lost 16-23 to the Bengals. Skelton had 297 passing yards, 3 interceptions, 6 penalties for 87 yards, sacked 5 times for 40 yards lost. And, I think the Seahawks, they've been doing pretty good lately. I think the Seahawks are going to win this one. San Diego Chargers and the Oakland Raiders. This is another talked about game. Now, San Diego Chargers lost 10-38 to the Lions. Rivers had 299 passing yards, 2 interceptions, 1 penalty for 10 yards, sacked 1 time for 2 yards lost, and they are out of the playoffs now. Unfortunately, they didn't make it through. Now the Raiders, though, Oakland Raiders, they won 16-13 over the Chiefs. In overtime, Palmer had 237 passing yards, 2 interceptions. They had 15 penalties for 92 yards, no fumbles, no sacks. Made 2 interceptions for 65 yards, and they're tied for first for AFC West title. So they have something to play for, but I just think the Chargers are going to be a spoiler. I think the Chargers are going to win. And last but not least, the Kansas City Chiefs and the Denver Broncos. Now this is a big one. Kyle Orton versus Tim Tebow, who in the beginning of the season were on the same team. Kansas City Chiefs lost 13-16 to the Raiders in overtime. Kyle Orton had 300 passing yards, 2 interceptions. They had 11 penalties for 88 yards, no fumbles, no sacks, made 2 interceptions for 22 yards, and they are eliminated from the playoff race. But the Denver Broncos lost 14-40 to the Bills. Tebow had 185 passing yards, 4 interceptions. They had 7 penalties for 58 yards, sacked 3 times for 25 yards lost. Tebow threw 2 consecutive pick-sixes in the 4th quarter, and the Broncos are tied with Oakland for first place. But you know what? I think that in this matchup, the Denver Broncos know how Kyle Orton plays, and I just think the luck is going to be with Tebow, and it's going to be Tebow time again, and I think Denver Broncos are going to win this matchup. So to go over my picks for Week 17, the last regular week in football, be Falcons over the Buccaneers, Ravens over the Bengals, Steelers over the Browns, Lions over the Packers, 49ers over the Rams, Dolphins over the Jets, Vikings over the Bears, Patriots over the Bills, Saints over the Panthers, Giants over the Cowboys, Eagles over the Redskins, Colts over the Jaguars, Texans over the Titans, Seahawks over the Cardinals, Chargers over the Raiders, and Broncos over the Chiefs. So those are my Week 17 picks. Happy New Year, everybody, and see you in 2012.